about to begin one of the biggest TA patterns of all time. Just flashed code red on the charts. And with a confirmed double D formation, all bets are off. But what if I told you that something potentially twice as big just happened for Bitcoin right now? That's it, boys. It's time to call our managers and tell them that we quit, because this little burger boy won't be flipping patties again until the next bear market. Right now, Bitcoin price continues to consolidate at a very critical level as we are about to begin a very exciting week. And as we talked about as we entered the very beginning of last week, things truly did shift, and we are getting the perfect so far test. Now, the big questions are right in front of us of if we will truly get a complete retracement backtest of this pattern, or in fact, if the market is a little too strong, because there's been a lot of things coming out, specifically as well that, you know, maybe the US is not as anti-crypto as previously thought. Obviously, they're not really anti-Bitcoin. They're kind of anti, like, all altcoins, which is totally baloney. And guys, it is worth noting right now that whatever the US decides to do, who cares, right? It's a global market. Absolutely, the US is extremely influential in terms of this, in terms of financial policy and everything like that. However, if the US would try to ban and get rid or heavily regulate certain altcoins over other coins or something like that, all it's going to do is slow down innovation in the US specifically, and adoption will go elsewhere. So it is a ticking time bomb of who is willing to embrace the technology. But if we look at Bitcoin's chart here, guys, this is very big. So Bitcoin's currently at 23,000. And as we talked about just a day, or last time I made a video 3 days ago, we're at right now a very critical support. And I haven't touched this chart since 3 days ago. And here we are, still testing this level, still holding this level. Very big levels of APVR. So you might be wondering, or if you were wondering why we're still there, this is exactly why. We were talking about this 3 days ago, saying, you know, this should be at least somewhat decent support, and here we are, still there. So for Bitcoin to actually get very bearish and get a really scary back test of going down a couple $1,000s, well, this gigantic level needs to break. And an even bigger level lies just below it, right at about 21,000. A gigantic, ginormo level right around 20,000. A giga, mega, absolutely extra sloppy level at around 19,000. And the sloppiest toppy of all time right here down at about 16.8, 16.9 thousand. So things just get sloppier, dirtier, and more absolutely mind-boggling the lower we would go. And the support is there. And as well, the stock market, right now the point of control is exactly where it's holding. This is why it's exciting that this new week is going to be opening up soon for traditional markets, because we'll see if we'll actually get some sort of bounce, if we'll get a continued downside, what happens here, right? And again, I mean, what I think is most exciting is if we go to the SPX, so far this last week, we did test the 200-day moving average. And so what's going to happen? Are we going to retest and bounce off of this year-long plus trend line that was previous resistance? Will it turn into support? Because once you start to see this MACD start to wrap around, then things could get pretty exciting that this relief, this dumpiness is over, and this relief rally can potentially continue again for another couple weeks. Now, the DXY has its own big issue here. Will it be able to avoid a double top? Okay, because guys, I mean, this scenario can get very bearish if the DXY ends up, you know, not being able to hold this level or break above this previous support turned now most likely resistance. If the DXY is not able to do that, this can get very dumpy very fast. If the DXY gets a sharp rejection there, then you absolutely bet the stock market is going to be doing something special, and Bitcoin will be doing something special, and altcoins will be doing something special as well. But at this very second, Bitcoin itself is actually below its 21-day moving average, or actually kind of inched and squinched right below it. So kind of, I mean, for all intents and snurfuses, it's right there. So it's right at that level. We have the other 20, the 50 and 200 days right below it, moving averages. Again, all the while Bitcoin is maintaining to stay above its retest of this about a 1.5 year long falling wedge right underneath this death cross. And again, if we break above that death cross, guys, keep in mind, all bets are off. We could get very busty very quick. And that's very exciting. Another few patterns we're still watching, and, Bitcoin obviously has to invalidate its own double top. But in the short term, I think it's very good. Bitcoin is still kind of showing that 23,000 looks to be some sort of support. And guys, keep in mind, the lower we go, the more robust, the more defined, the more busty these supports get, which is exciting because that's, if you really want to see price collapse here, the price action is not on your side. In the short term, yes, we can see the price go down and get pushed down, but ultimately, to get all that momentum to push us down, it's going to springboard us back up at some point sooner or later, which I think will end up putting in a higher high on these, multi-week charts, in my opinion. But as well, we take a look on this chart here. We see Advisor Bid pointed out this 3-week chart of the MACD actually crossing, so potentially some momentum shifting up here with Bitcoin. And also Mags, the Scalping Pro on Twitter, pointing out a potential double busty bottom, double D pattern, double D, double bust, double bottom pattern, as I like to call it. And we've seen this before. We see this neckline potentially coming in. I think a lot of people, right, we saw what happened over the last couple days where we kind of get pushed down a little bit, but Bitcoin didn't really get pushed down that much. A lot of people were expecting, we're about to dump down to 20K and below, and it basically just stayed at 23K. So I think even people that really, really want to be bearish, they get, obviously, and for good reason, I think they're getting a little scared that, how much lower can this really go? Is it possible we come all the way back down to the $17,000, $16,000 range? Because it's going to take a lot to get us there. And if it gets us there, you have to expect it would be the biggest bounce of all time. And I just don't see it right now. We have to see, again, we got some pretty not good PCE news last week about inflation. So you would think that's going to absolutely dump the market, and it didn't. So the bearish narrative is just running out of juice. There needs to be, if you want Bitcoin to revisit 16 and 17,000, there needs to be some horrible news that is not something that's already in people's minds that they might be expecting. It needs to be a true black swan or something. And if you're sitting there predicting a black swan, wake up and clean your diaper a little bit. You can't predict a black swan. That's literally the definition of it. If you're, thinking of all these horrible things that could go wrong and trying to predict every little thing, well, you're just absolutely guessing with a 0% accuracy rating. I mean, if you predict a black swan for 10 years, chances are there probably will be a black swan within those 10 years, but you didn't predict it. Just because you've been saying, every day there's a black swan. So with that being said, if you're looking for the most doomsday narrative of all time, and the craziest thing, if you're trying to predict when that will be and what it will be, get your head out of the toilet. That doesn't make any sense. That's the most bananas thing you could do, because you can't predict a black swan. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a black swan. And with all of that as well, we do see the massive triple dipper deluxe flash on Bitcoin's 5-day chart. And, this pattern speaks for itself, okay? Don't really have to get into that too much. But with that being said, Bitcoin itself, I believe that, obviously, as always, it will depend on how the stock market does. But we do have a chance of actually seeing some continued relief this week. But the most important thing is looking at the DXY and looking at the stock market. I think there's a real possibility that DXY rolls over here and does not get as busty as people think. But again, for the DXY to really get bullish, it needs to get up all the way to 110. And guys, that's going to, you talk about needing a big pump. That's going to take a lot of juice for anything like that to happen. So really, right now, still, the odds, even in the midst of a pullback, the odds are still heavily on the Bitcoin bull side in terms of what is the clearest path, the easiest path, and what makes the most sense. Now, does the question, does the crowd agree with that? Does the crowd believe that? I think at this point, as we keep seeing on every $500 dip, the bears come out in groves. And where are they coming from? Because over the last couple of weeks, you haven't really seen that many bearish people until the price literally goes down $500, and then they just appear like minions out of everywhere, right? There's just millions of them appearing out of thin air. And that's truly what I think is the case. I still think more people are bearish. I think they're hiding right now and making themselves try to seem, quiet and reserved, because they obviously understand the narrative that the majority is most likely usually wrong, but I still do believe the majority is bearish, okay? Watch what happens if we get another $1,000 drop. The amount of people posting insanely bearish calls back to 10K, 15K is insane. Don't let it fool you. Just because they're quiet right now, there is an insane amount of bearish people right now still expecting that Bitcoin's going to get crushed. And again, I still believe the path to maximum pain is to the upside. So you get a channel, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on those ghost notifications, turn on these absolutely time-sensitive alerts. Sign up to BITGET or BitGet below to get 0 spot trading fees. Amazing deal. The best deposit bonuses on YouTube as well when you deposit, and also welcome bonuses. And, dozens and dozens of coins for trading, whether it's spot, whether it's derivatives, whether it's copy trading, all the features you would need. And the biggest bonus is when you specifically sign up with my links below. There are tutorials scattered throughout the video and popping up now and in the description as well. Without any further ado, that's free.